Hey guys, welcome back to Inside the Five. I'm Stav.
It's Griff.
And I'm Will.
We got a lot on the plate to talk about today. We're talking about the MLB Lockout, NCAA basketball, the NBA. We also got some NFL talk. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and let's dive right in.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Inside the Five. Let's get right into things. The lockout is continuing. They had a big meeting. They said was the deadline before they would start cutting off any regular season games. We have now passed the deadline. The meeting did not get anything done once again. Stav, initial thoughts?
I'm going to rant a little bit later, but just to sum that up, very selfish on both sides, in my opinion.
Well,
I'd have to agree. Honestly, like at this point, like the biggest takeaway, other than being selfish on both sides, is that they extended the deadline to Tuesday because of the talks Monday night. It sounded like they were getting places, which was like we were all convinced that the MLB was about to start like this week, like
right.
Monday night. We were like, oh my God, they moved it to Tuesday. This is great. Tuesday night, we hear basically the decision was unanimous that they weren't going to agree, which the unanimous part has to be the worst part, in my opinion. The fact that they extended it a day and it was still unanimous after an extra day after all of this still means that the gap is just as big as it was 2 months ago. So we're like, in my opinion, we're still not going to get anywhere. And I feel like it's going to be a lot more dragged on than it should be, which it already has been.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're 2.5 weeks in, maybe 3.5 weeks into when pitchers and catchers were supposed to report. So we're way past the deadline of missing things. But the next big milestone in terms of missing things in the MLB is starting to miss regular season games. That's not something that I originally thought we were going to get into, like at all, because usually when there's a new CBA or a new contract to be signed, there's a little back and forth, but they get it done because both sides need to realize that you need to play. Like there's no excuse for not playing. You have to figure out a contract by then. I think not only was it selfish, I think there was a bit of laziness because I don't think they did enough in their meetings, and I don't think they had enough meetings. Overall, I think they're so behind on everything because I don't think they took it serious for the past couple of months. And then on Monday night was the first time we really got anywhere. We haven't gotten anywhere since this, and we're way cutting into time. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of games in the first few months of when we're supposed to have them.
I mean, I don't even think them not taking it serious to start is even like, yes, one, that is definitely probably a little bit of the problem. But two, they have ideas, they have things that they've been talking about. Obviously, we've heard the last few meetings, besides this one that happened this week, have not been longer than like 15 minutes for the most part. But like, then you see Jeff Passan on Twitter with like huge documents saying all these things that they're trying to get by, all these things they're trying to do, all the things that they're trying to do to help the players in general. Like, obviously, like, I don't think anyone's on Rob Manfred's side here. Everyone's rooting for like the Players Association's ideas and all that stuff because that's the important stuff. I mean, a lot of this, like going back down to like this year when they just have to, like when they just allowed minor leaguers to have to provide housing. Like, how is that just a thing that just happened?
Right.
Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different things on that list of things that Jeff Passan has tweeted out. There's many things like an extended playoff, DH, all these things. I mean, I don't understand how they're like, oh, this thing is going to happen. And it's like, where's the agreement? Also the CBT. There's a lot of things that they're missing. There's a lot of things that they're not taking enough time with. But at the same time, like, I don't even think they're ever going to reach an agreement. And we like, I mean, I know we have our predictions that we're going to get to later on. I mean, I wrote mine. I honestly think it could be later than what ours is. I'm expecting a COVID season again. I'm expecting at least 60 games.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me because they've known that this was going to happen. Like, they've known that they've had to reach this deadline. They've known for months. They've known for years that the agreement was going to come to an end. they've had so much time to negotiate, yet they just didn't negotiate for the first, what was it, 3.5 months since they can start negotiating. They didn't negotiate for 3.49 months. You know what I mean? They got absolutely nothing done, like we said, and it's so frustrating because baseball kind of has a stigma around it right now that it's a dying sport, even though that's not really true. But even if there's a little stigma around it, why wouldn't you try and prevent at all costs to not let the sport die? And at the helm of it all is Rob Manfred. He hates baseball. Like, I'm convinced this guy just doesn't care about baseball. I don't know how he got elected to be the commissioner, but he's the worst commissioner in all of sports by far. Like, he calls the World Series a hunk of metal as if it doesn't matter. He's laughing at the press conference while the MLBPA and the MLB owners are just not talking. He's going to get paid, so he does not care at all. So it frustrates me so much that there is such little effort put in on both sides of the agreement, at the top of the helm with Rob Manfred all the way down. I just feel like none of these guys care, and as long as their pockets get bigger, they do not care at all. I know we kind of are taking the side of the players here. However, they always say, "Oh, this is going to be better for the fans." How is canceling games going to be better for fans, considering the fact that you guys are just not going to play? We are not going to be able to watch our favorite teams. We don't even know where half the MLB is going to land because they've just canceled negotiations and trades and everything. We don't know who's going to be on our teams. I mean, it's just ridiculous to me how they couldn't come up with an offer, like as if they're 5 years old and just don't know how to negotiate. I don't know.
Yeah, like that's obviously a big problem too. The other problem is so the reason why I said that I think it's probably going to be around the time that like the COVID season started a couple of years ago is because free agency has not started. None of the offseason tasks have even began. One, obviously, spring training was supposed to start almost 3.5 weeks ago. They're so far behind, so that when they're like, okay, well, there's like this first delay of games, that's like if they were to have an agreement like in 2 weeks from now, they'd be like, okay, those 2 games, we add in free agency, we add in all the offseason tasks plus spring training, barely they'll make it so that way it's comfortable for the players and the teams to start. Realistically, they're probably not going to have a deal for at least another month and a half. Another month and a half where the games are probably going to get canceled. It's March 2nd, and
March.
the seasons are happy March. There's already
We sleep in May.
there's already the two what's it
Two
called?
series.
2 series has already been canceled, which is a lot. I guarantee you, first month completely will be wiped out in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, when they're trying to figure it out again, they're going to have to delay the season once the off season has to start.
Right. So, I mean, to look a little bit into the Red Sox schedule, we'll be missing the Rays game or the Rays series to start, which is kind of a big series to start off because, I mean, the Rays obviously been very good in the past few years, and then Baltimore. So as of right now, we're missing a 3-game stretch against Tampa Bay, a 3-game stretch around Baltimore, 6 games. I know what people are going to say. It's a lot of games, and Stav brought up the point that people are saying it's a dying sport, which it's not dying, but it is decreasing in its viewers, and we've seen it over the last like 5, 6, 7 years that they're not getting the same amount of viewers. Last year they spiked a lot. I don't know if any of you guys saw any of those statistics, but it was one of the greatest years that I've personally watched of MLB baseball. I enjoyed it all around. I watched almost or maybe every Red Sox game. Not only that, I watched a ton of different games around the league. I was all over the place watching games, looking at highlights, looking at different stats. Like I was into the MLB, and I can't lie. The past few years before that, I really wasn't. I still watched my Sox, but that was about it. I didn't really care about whatever was going around the rest of the league. Last year brought me back in, and I enjoyed it a lot. There's a lot of names around the league. The worst part, in my opinion, is 2 out of the last 3 years, we haven't played a full season, which before that, we hadn't played a full season since whenever the last lockout was, and I don't even think we were alive for that. We're missing prime years for like these different guys, and I'm not going to go off and name names because We've seen them in the tweets. We know who they are. But, like, there's these guys, some of the greatest players and, like, future Hall of Famers that we're missing time playing the game of baseball, which, I mean, I'm not going to call it dying sport, but it's getting a lot less popular. Last year was a big year. This is a big year to capitalize on what you did last year to try to increase on that. Rob Manfred ruining the game of baseball, I would say, not only just screwing with it, but ruining it. The MLB is like it's like America. It's literally America. Like it's our nation's sport is baseball, and that is the highest level of baseball in this country, in the world. And there's no reason for it to not be played. The last lockout I think we had was with the NBA, and I mean, we were young, so I wasn't as upset about it as I am with this. But, like, the NBA came back strong. They didn't miss a lot of games. I think they missed about, like, 15, which is still a good amount. But as of right now, we've lost 6. We're going to miss more than 15 games. We're going to miss a lot of games. So let's get in. I'm going to get right into our predictions. I'm going to say we're going to start on around May 15th, around the middle of May, is what I'm seeing. And honestly, you were right, Will, what you said earlier. That's best case scenario.
Yeah, I agree. My prediction, I wrote early, middle May. I completely changed my mind. I'll see you guys in June.
As I feel like I'm being very optimistic here because I just do not want to face the reality of it. But I'm going to say late April, early May, just because I feel like there's so much pressure to get a deal done as soon as possible. And they've already seen the backlash that has been received for canceling games. There's no way the owners, they're taking away from their bottom line. Like the money hungry people that they are, there's no way they can. I don't want to say they can't afford it, but like they don't want to lose this much money, especially opening day, the most marketable day of the year. I'm not going to rant again, but it makes me very upset that they're canceling games because I just think about last season, the 5-team wild card race between the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Athletics, and the Mariners.
A's were in it.
Yeah, that span of a month and a half from beginning of August to mid-September, late September. Actually, no, through September, the 2-month race.
Yep.
You're
it was
taking
2 months.
away,
It was definitely 2 months.
Yeah, you take away 2 months, you take away the most exciting part of baseball in the wild card race. So they got to figure it out. They got to put their egos aside and figure out a deal. So that's kind of all I really have to say about it.
Yeah, like the whole ego part of it too. That's obviously like a big problem. I mean, like you said, you take away a certain amount of games. That end season race, that like March to October, literally is that like key component at the end of the season is completely taken away. You're completely taken away from like All-Star break. Like that's no fun anymore. Like you're gonna just see whoever's hot is gonna be hot. We saw it in the COVID season. There's gonna like the divisions are gonna be completely out of line again, probably if they keep missing more games. We're gonna see like basically the teams who have the best players and who have the best overall teams are probably going to succeed. And the teams that are like middle of the pack, they need to have time to practice, they need time to gel, aren't going to play as well because there's just not enough time. Like, I mean, a sole case is our team, the Red Sox. We saw during the COVID season, it was miserable. Miserable is like that's like the best thing I could probably say about that season. Like it was awful, like incredibly awful. And then like we're a team that needs time to gel. We saw it last year. Like I mean, we did start off hot. We had a little cold streak, but then that brought us back together and we made a playoff run. We went a lot farther than everyone thought we were going to go. I mean, like even at the beginning of the season, me and you, Griff, we both said that like, hey, don't sleep on the Sox.
Yeah.
And like we were right for the most part. Obviously, we didn't make the World Series, but we easily could have.
They were pretty damn close.
Yeah.
Right. So to wrap things up, I'll just drop a couple more things. First off, minor league is still in play. So in that organization, we'll go with the Red Sox. The Red Sox 40-man roster are the 40 people that cannot play. Everybody else in the system can play at any level. So the Red Sox, we're not going to be seeing like Tanner Houck in AAA. We're not going to be seeing Jarren Duran. We will be seeing people like Tristan Casas and Jeter Downs. But like these guys, especially I feel like Jarren Duran and Houck, that's why I named them. They're getting screwed the most because they can't play AAA ball. They're young. They could be, up next. Like Houck had a fantastic season in my opinion. He was one of my favorite pitchers on the team. And who knows what Duran could be. There's been so many different talks about him. And they're going to be missing out on way more games than other people at the same age are going to be missing out on because they'll be in AAA. I think it really screws them over. And obviously it screws the rest of the league over too, these guys. I think this is a year for the Dodgers. Or I'm not going to name any other teams that are of Dodger caliber because the Yankees will never win a World Series again. But I'm going to go. This is going to be a Dodger year. This is the year.
Always
there's
like
not
that
a lot
when
of there's not a lot of time in the season. So like you said, Will, it's just going to be the most talented teams are going to get it done. And to Stav's point on that little 2-month run. That's going to be the beginning of the season. So we're going to have to get right into that. And we know that's not how baseball works. It really screws up with anything, or with everything, not with anything, with everything. But to switch over to the happiest time in college basketball. Welcome to March, guys. Let's get these. Yeah, let's get this going. I'm done being mad at the MLB. It's March Madness time. The conference tournaments are starting up, and with that, we're getting our regular season champions for each conference. So we're going to be going through a couple of conferences, breaking down different scenarios. Some teams have already clinched it. Some conferences are wide open. Let's get things right into it with the Big Ten. Last night, or when are we releasing this? Friday? So now it's 3 nights ago. Wisconsin won the Big Ten. That's electric. Wisconsin, the Badgers win the Big Ten. They did so ranked 10th also in the nation. They did so by beating number 8 seeded Purdue at home 70-67. If they beat Nebraska on Saturday, they'll finish 25-5. If not, they'll be 24-6. Still an impressive season. Let's say a scenario they beat Nebraska, which my guess is they most likely will because they're a lot better of a team. If they win, being at the number 10 seed right now after beating number 8 Purdue, could they be a 1 seed, Stav?
Are we talking about in general in the AP top 25? Or are we talking about just in the tournament?
The four 1 seeds in the tournament is what I mean by that.
I don't think so. I think they'll be a 2 seed. Definitely a 2 seed.
Yeah.
Maybe a 1, but I just think that you still got Gonzaga, you got Kansas, you got Duke, and you got why am I blanking?
There's Baylor.
You got Baylor, you got Auburn. There's so many good teams. I just don't think that Wisconsin's going to sneak. I mean, maybe if they smack Nebraska and some teams lose, they'll definitely sneak in.
And I think if they win their conference tournament as well, that'll help them out a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to say that too.
A lot has to go right for them to be a 1, but I definitely see them being a 2.
Well,
I honestly, like, depending on how things go, like you guys said, I was going to say if they win their conference tournament, I think they definitely have a good bid to be that 1 seed, one of the 4 1 seeds. I think right now, obviously, I think they get 2 seed, but don't be surprised if they sneak in as that last 1 seed. Mm-hmm. I think there's a very good chance that they could get that bid just based off of how they're playing right now. Like, I mean, a lot of that is relative. Like, most of it is relative. And like, obviously Auburn has been on a little bit of a down slope. So like that could be like their low bid into where Auburn is.
Yeah. So I wanted to just add in that Wisconsin's been, in my opinion, more of like a sneaky team coming out of this conference because there's a lot of names in the Big Ten that have been playing very well this year. And Wisconsin kind of just did their own thing. They beat the teams that they needed to beat. I think their losses were from Illinois at some point when they were ranked. Michigan State when they were ranked. Who else did they lose to? I think they lost a couple of bad ones. I know they lost to Ohio State. I don't know if they were ranked at that time. And they lost to Providence earlier in the season. But Wisconsin's just kind of like put their head down and did what they needed to do. And now they're the Big Ten champion for the regular season. I think coming into that conference tournament, the only team that they need to beat there is Purdue, and they're going to be at home for the first 2 rounds. They'll get through it. I think they'll get to the finals, and we'll see a great game against Purdue, and that'll decide who the 1 seed from that conference is.
I was gonna say, I think like their losses compared to what Auburn has lost recently, I think Wisconsin's losses are more fair to them. I think they're like they mean a lot, like more for them as how good they are as a team. They're like, wow, they lost to like good teams when they were ranked. Like Auburn's just playing awful, and they're losing to teams where they should be completely sweeping the floor. I mean, like that Tennessee game is a big hit for who I think they are as a team, especially going into the tournament. Like obviously, yeah, like Tennessee home game, electric crowd, but like you can't just like completely get dismantled. That game score did not have any relevance to how they played.
You're talking about Auburn?
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, Stav, do you have any finishing remarks for the Big Ten?
No, to be honest, I'm curious. This last whole weekend, I know you guys kind of spoke about it on Monday, but like, last weekend was so crazy that my entire perspective on college basketball as a whole, like the top 6 seeds losing, it just messes with my mind so heavily. But I'm just so excited. I cannot wait for the conference tournaments and the overall tournament. Obviously, I just can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next conference. Will, don't talk about Auburn anymore because we're going to get into the SEC after we do the ACC, because this is another big conference that had their conference regular season champion. Will, we are not going to be happy about this. It's Duke, and it's Duke for the first time since 2010. They've won a national championship since then. They've won conference championships postseason, but they've never won a regular season conference championship since 2010. They beat Pittsburgh to clinch it, and they finished their season against UNC, Will. A big upset slate, in my opinion. Coach K's last game at home against UNC. Tickets are going for around $3,000 is like the lowest. So, Will, first off, thoughts on Duke winning it? I think it was pretty obvious. And what's your prediction for the game against UNC on Saturday?
Honestly, obviously, UNC fan. I don't like Duke at all, but it is what it is. They're a good team. Like, I'm not gonna deny it. Like, I'd just be stupid if I were to be like, oh no, they're awful. But no, they're gonna lose on Saturday, guaranteed. Awful home team this year. They suck. They're gonna lose. UNC is gonna wipe the floor. They're ready. You really think they're gonna let Coach K win his last game? No chance.
I think they're gonna try everything they can do to not let that happen.
Roy might pull up and coach the game. I'm serious. Roy might.
Roy goes to every game. I don't know why he doesn't just coach.
No, I literally don't know. He goes to every single game. He's like the biggest fan. I think it's awesome. It brings that energy back. It's like what we need. And you see him sitting on the bench. Game over.
Right. Stav, Duke, are they phony? Are they going to make a run in March Madness? What do you see from them?
Oh, no, I don't think they're going to make a run in March Madness. I do think they're going to beat North Carolina, though. But I always feel like Duke has these high expectations with Coach K, and they always lose in the Sweet 16, Elite 8. That's kind of like their ceiling. They've made a few championship runs. College basketball, it's the hardest title to win, so it's not really a knock on Duke. I just can't really see them really making a giant run, making to the championship. So I don't know. It's just kind of my preconceived bias against Duke losing. Just like I have a preconceived bias against Baylor losing in the first round every single year.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Duke is a very good team. They're a good team. I feel like they're just not as put together as the teams where we're like Duke's gonna make a run.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. This whole time, seeing them playing good, I'm like, they're playing good, but they're also their games have been really weird. We watched Duke UNC together, Griff. The last one, close game. Wasn't it a close game? I believe.
For a while it wasn't.
For a while it wasn't.
Fought back and then lost it.
Then lost it. So I'm kind of predicting something similar. Obviously I said that they're gonna wipe the floor, but that's what I hope happens. But realistically, Duke It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game. But they're just not put together. I don't think they're meant for a run this year. Like, all signs are adding up for them to like have some kind of miracle run in Coach K's last year. I just don't see that happening. I feel like that's just too obvious.
I agree with that. And if my theory about college basketball being rigged is true, then Duke will win the championship.
Exactly.
Like,
Like, dude, like just Duke will just not win the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, finish things up for me on Duke. They're gonna have a test game against UNC on Saturday. It's his last home game. I think they're gonna go in there. They're gonna know who they're playing. Obviously, they've played them before. They've beat them before. In my opinion, this is a different UNC team who had a great season. Sadly, they're not ranked, but I mean, they'll be in the tournament. I think that they'll be the last four in the tournament, and UNC could maybe win in the first round, maybe win in the second round, get to the Sweet 16. Maybe not, maybe they will. But I think this is a good game to see Duke's true colors because UNC needs this game very badly to get into the tournament. They don't need to win. They just need to keep it close, in my opinion. So Duke's going to get a real test is basically what I'm trying to say. And this is going to look like a lot of teams. UNC's team, they play real college basketball. So the first couple of rounds, teams are going to play very similar to how UNC plays. Duke's opponents is what I mean. So this will be kind of a look at what they're going to get. Duke will get a 1 seed. They'll win in the first round. They're going to play a team like UNC or a team that has like the same caliber players as UNC, and I think they're going to win in a tough fight. And I don't know if they'll make it past the Sweet 16. They don't have enough bench, in my opinion. Their best player, quote unquote, Banchero, gets those cramps that he's been dealing with all season. He can't play for a long amount of time. I just don't think they have everything put together that they need to win a championship this year. I think they'll win the ACC. I think that'll actually be quite easy for them. There's not a lot of competition in the ACC this year. So I'm gonna straight up just go ahead and call Duke frauds. Like I really don't think they'll do anything in March Madness. Like I said, I think they'll win the ACC. They already did the regular season. I think they'll win the tournament, and I think my ceiling for them, like Stav said, is the Elite Eight. So those are all my thoughts. But moving on to the SEC, the next two, we're covering two more conferences. These two are my favorites. These two are the best ones. Nobody has won it yet. Nothing has been clinched for a regular season or for seeding in their conference tournament. Getting things started, Will. I know you're happy. It's the SEC. I'll give a quick rundown of who's still alive. First off, we have Auburn, who Will has talked about a little bit already. They're 13-3. They have 2 games to finish off the season. This is conference records, by the way, which is kind of what matters the most for the conference tournament. That's what I'm looking at for this. They finished the season against Mississippi State and South Carolina, 2 unranked opponents. In my opinion, 2 wins. If they lose one of them, they're screwed because Kentucky is half a game behind them. The 2 seed, obviously, 13-4. They play Florida, who's a tough team, unranked, but can get it done. Coming up at number 3, we have Tennessee, who Will talked about as well, who beat Auburn. They finished the season against number 4 Arkansas, who's 12-4. It's crazy. So if Tennessee, say like scenario, Tennessee beats Arkansas, Auburn loses one of their games, and Kentucky loses to Florida, then they're in. Vice versa with Arkansas. If Kentucky wins their game, Auburn loses one of their games, then Kentucky's it. Stav, get us started off. Who do you think is going to win the SEC?
Well, I can tell you who's not going to win the SEC. I don't think Arkansas is going to win. I think LSU is going to beat them tonight. I think or the night of this recording. I mean, I'm biased. I am an LSU fan, but I just think LSU always plays these close games against these ranked opponents. Like we remember a month ago or so, they beat Alabama in that free throw contest at the end. They kept it close against Kentucky. Like they lost by 5 2 weeks ago, and they compete. They won games between then. I think LSU was actually going to beat Arkansas tonight. I think it's really going to come down to Auburn or Kentucky. And I just think Auburn is going to pull it out just because they kind of have an easier path. So I don't know. That's my opinion on it. I think Auburn's going to win.
Well, one, of course, Auburn has the easiest end of the season schedule out of all these teams. Kentucky, not a bad matchup against Florida. Tennessee obviously plays a hard Arkansas team. I think they win that game. And then Arkansas actually finishes off probably with the hardest out of the four, which is unlucky for them being fourth. So, like Stav said, I agree. I don't think Arkansas will win. They won't win the NCC. Just doesn't make sense based off their schedule. Like they have two hard matchups. I mean, obviously there's a chance, but it's very low.
Yeah,
I think the obvious pick I think is they're not out of it, no. But like the way it's looking, Auburn I feel like is the most obvious choice just because of how easy their schedule is. It's going to take a lot for anyone like Kentucky or Tennessee to really compete. Don't be surprised if Tennessee could slip in there.
Right.
But like I honestly think it's unlikely that Auburn will. That anyone other than Auburn will win at the moment. In terms of the tournament, don't sleep on Tennessee or Arkansas to win the SEC tournament. I think those are two big teams that you can't sleep on. I feel like Kentucky is a little overrated at the moment.
I mean,
I feel like they're just getting a little too much hype for my liking.
Right.
I feel like there's too much hype surrounding them, and there hasn't been like recently. They've been on the downslope. They've been bringing it back up recently, but I think that like huge train behind Kentucky at the moment is just like it needs to just slow down just a little bit. I think everyone's getting a little too excited about it.
Right. So here's everything that I'm thinking of in this conference because I have a lot. First off, I'm going to start with Auburn. They have the names. They have the potential number one pick. They have the potential. I think he lost it, but he could have been Naismith Player of the Year in what's his name? Oh my gosh, I had his name in my head and he just completely left it. The big white center, he shoots threes. Totally forgot his name. That's embarrassing. But Walker Kessler. Boom. Sorry. They have him. They have Jabari Smith, who could be the number one pick. In my opinion, those are two of the best college basketball players in all of America right now. But I think if they lose one of these games, Kentucky's going to slip in. Kentucky's going to beat Florida. It's going to be a different matchup. Kentucky has it. I don't think, though, that Auburn is going to lose either of these games. You guys are right. It's just way too easy. Auburn will be the one seed heading into the SEC tournament. For Kentucky, they're going to beat Florida. They're going to be the 2 seed. The 3 and the 4 is actually where I'm most interested in. I feel like the 1 and the 2 are locked up already. But the 3 and the 4, first off, Arkansas plays the toughest schedule, like you guys said. They have 2 games remaining, one against LSU, who was ranked like literally last week, and then one against Tennessee, who is also ranked. But unlike you guys, I think Arkansas is going to beat Tennessee. I think J.D. Note is a very good player, and I think they are also going to beat LSU. Sorry, Stav. I love the way that Arkansas plays basketball. They have a great head coach. They play great defense. They play great offense off the dribble. Like they can really just do anything, and when they need the big shot, very important in college basketball, when they need the big shot, they have the guy to do it in J.D. Note. For Tennessee, I think Tennessee's going to come into the SEC tournament. Say it's the 3 seed, say it's the 4 seed. I think their floor is the semifinal. I think Tennessee plays a great press. They do it all. They play real college basketball, and it's fun to watch. I think Tennessee, Arkansas, they both make runs in this SEC tournament. I don't think Auburn's going to win the SEC tournament. I think it could be Kentucky, but I'm not too sure just because of Oscar Tshiebwe. This conference has a lot of names, by the way, some real names.
Exciting conference.
I think Auburn gets upset. I don't think it's going to be in the first few rounds. Kentucky doesn't have the depth, in my opinion, to really get it done either. And if they win the SEC tournament, they'll get a good seed, and I don't think they'll do much in March Madness just because they'll be tired. Tennessee and Arkansas are 2 teams that I'm looking at, and I'm like, both of these teams could win the SEC tournament easily. And I'm going to go out with my prediction. I'm going to say Arkansas beats LSU tonight. They beat Tennessee on Saturday. I'm sorry to you guys who have been doubting my Razorbacks. And they're going to go in. They're going to make it to the final in the SEC tournament. They're going to lose to whoever. I don't think they'll win the final, but I think they'll make it to it. This is like my exact prediction. I plan this all out. They're going to get a good seed in the tournament, and they're going to make an Elite Eight run. I really believe in Arkansas this year. I really think they have what it takes to make it.
I agree. I mean, like, for the most part, I really like Arkansas this year too. I have the similar feeling to you with Tennessee. I think they just play an electric game of basketball. They have a similar style to Arkansas. I feel like they're going to run the SEC tournament with Arkansas this year. For like you said about Kentucky, I said the same thing. I just think this team's going to run out. They're too
reliant on Sheboy.
Yes, and then the hype thing is just such a big problem with like March Madness. Like obviously like Baylor was hyped last year, like Gonzaga was hyped last year. Like everyone kind of knew that was going to happen, but like it set it up the same way. You know what I mean? Like the way it was all set up last year, it made sense. This year, I have a feeling things aren't going to be set up. This is going to be a very, very hard March Madness. Like in terms of making a bracket, seeing who's going to win, seeing out the matchups, I feel like we're in for a great March Madness again. Like last year was great. This year we're in for another great one, I feel like. But I mean, Tennessee and Arkansas, those sneaky teams that you're going to be like that Elite Eight run, like they could even push farther than that. I feel like they have a chance. They really do have a chance. Kentucky's hype is just a little too much for me. Auburn, obviously being a 1 seed, they're projected to have a 1 seed. I feel like they're falling off is just like we talked about, I think a couple of weeks ago. Did they peak at the wrong time? I honestly, as of right now, I think they might have. I think like there's who's saying that they can't bring it back together and make a little run. That's not stopping them. But in my opinion, I just don't think the pieces are falling the right way for a team like Auburn to really make some noise.
Right. And Will, big fan of hype, and I agree with you on the hype factor. There's a lot of pressure on these kids that, don't forget, guys, are our age. And I'm not saying that makes us old because we're some of the youngest people that have a podcast that I've ever seen. So we're not old, but some of these guys our age, Oscar Sheboy, I don't know if he's our age. Actually, I know he's not because he transferred from West Virginia, but he looks like he's 50 years old. And he's the only player on Kentucky, so they don't have depth. You can say what you want against the other guys. Ty Washington can't get it done in any time. Neither can Mintz. Moving on, though, I love the SEC this year, and I hate the SEC this year because the top two teams. First off, I like Auburn, but second off, Kentucky. I just hate their stigma with Cal. I love Sheboy. I don't think he'll translate into the NBA, but he's like a 20 and 15 college guy, which is awesome. But this isn't center. This isn't the year of the center like it was in like the 90s. Like we're gonna get things done by moving. I think teams are just gonna outrun Kentucky. Kentucky runs like a 7-8 man rotation. They won't be able to get it done. Moving on though to our final conference, we have the Big 12. Once again, I'm gonna run through the top 3 teams. There's 3 teams this time that have a chance of actually making or being the number 1 seed in their conference tournament. Based off conference record, once again, Baylor at number 1, no surprise there, 13-4 in the conference. At number 2, we got Kansas, 12-4, and at number 3, we have Texas Tech, 12-5. I guess I'll get us started here. I'm going to go straight up. I'm just going to say Baylor's going to win this conference. They are playing a great brand of basketball, and they finish up the season against Iowa State. Iowa State good at football, but Brock Purdy cannot play basketball for you guys. So it's the Baylor Bears. It was always the Baylor Bears. Stav?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that. I just think that's too easy of a matchup for Baylor to lose. I really do like Kansas, though. I don't really want to. I mean, they lost Tuesday to TCU, and they face them again.
They play them again, yeah.
Yeah, I think Kansas
at home.
Yeah, Kansas. I think Kansas is really going to be out for blood that game. I think they're going to smack them, but I just don't think it's going to be enough because Baylor is just going to win. And Texas Tech, I don't think they can win the Big 12 at all. But I think it's between Baylor and Kansas. But I love Baylor. I love how they play. I love that physicality. I love defense. I just think they got it in the bag.
That's fact.
I agree. I think Baylor has it in the bag. I like Baylor a lot this year. I think they're another one of those teams where like they lost some seniors last year after winning. They were like, it was like a what if kind of scenario again this year. Like, what could they do with what they have? They started off slow. They made a run. Now they're really good. You know what I mean? I feel like they're perfectly rated in terms of what they can do, and their style of basketball is very relative to the way March Madness plays, just because you don't see a lot of games like going back to the other conferences that we were talking about, with obviously like teams that have centers that play more of like a, not the right word, but like a ground and pound kind of style of basketball where like you feed the paint, you move around the paint, you make plays from outside, stuff like that. That settled offense doesn't really work in the tournament as much anymore. It's kind of hard. We saw it when Taco Fall was playing, like that game against Duke that we all watched. I know me and you talked about this, Griff.
Yeah.
Where just like it's just not relative. The whole fast-paced play is what wins you games in March Madness. Just when you burn another team out, they just have no shot. I think Baylor does win the Big 12. I think they'll also win the tournament, like the Big 12 tournament. I think they'll make a good run. I think this loss to TCU from Kansas, I think that means a lot more than what we think. I mean, I think they will probably win the rematch, but I think that exposed a lot of holes. And I mean, they are ranked 6th, so it's a good ranking, just inside the top 5. I don't know. I have an iffy feeling about them. I liked Kansas. Obviously, before this, I thought they were pretty well. They had a good team, surrounded with some good players. I don't really know if they got it anymore.
Right. I'm gonna Will, everything you said was exactly what I was thinking. First off, just to get Texas Tech out of here, because I don't even want to talk about them anymore.
Yeah,
like, they're a
I'm
good team
so
and everything.
over
They're not legit.
Texas Tech.
They're gonna beat Oklahoma State, but they're still technically like statistically available when it comes to the 1 seed. But they're not going to get it. They'll beat Texas Tech, but Baylor's not going to lose to Iowa State, and Baylor's going to lock it up. Kansas is going to be the 2. Kansas, in my opinion, they're going to beat TCU easily. They're at home this time because you don't get upset at home ever in college basketball. You only get upset on the road. They're going to finish off the season against Texas. I believe that's at Kansas, too. That's an easy win. Kansas isn't going to lose at home. Kansas will walk up the 2. Kansas had an opportunity at the 1. It was as simple as that. They lost to TCU on Tuesday night, and they screwed their chances. Baylor's going to be the 1 seed. Like you said, Will, Baylor's going to run through the SEC tournament. They're going to win the SEC tournament, I think, with ease. They're going to be a 1 seed, and they're going to make it to the Final Four, at least, in my opinion. Baylor is legit, and Baylor is here to stay. They have a great program in Waco, Texas, and I've said it before, I think on Friday's episode last week, you don't go into Waco, Texas and expect to win a basketball game. You don't go into Waco, Texas to expect anything other than a Baylor Bear victory. The Baylor Bears are superior to everybody.
They're super legit. Like
they are, in my opinion, top. They're in my top 3. They're in my top 3. They took some losses, but they took some losses when they were not fully healthy. They're going into the conference tournament fully healthy. We saw it the past week and a half. They're blowing teams out. They're beating the teams that they should beat. They're beating the teams that they maybe shouldn't beat, and that makes them legit. It's as simple as that. Baylor Bears may be my national champion, but it's too early. I'm not even kidding, and I'm not kidding.
High-profile team playing an excellent level of basketball in a competitive conference. I mean, like it's what you like to see. Like I said before, I think Baylor's going to win the Big 12, and what it is.
I'm in agreement with everything.
I think it's simple. I mean, Baylor.
It's really.
I just had to include the other guys because it's still not locked up, but it's gonna be against Iowa State. Just to wrap up my thoughts on Baylor, I just put a lot on people's shoulders when it comes to Baylor. But Baylor is putting it together at the exact right time. They got their injuries out of the way. Hopefully they don't experience any more. They've had their guys that they knew were going to be good. They're still good. They had some guys that they needed to step up, and guess what? They stepped up. They may have done it a little late, but they're here. They're here now. I think Arizona, who's ranked number 2, obviously in the Pac-12, they clinched the Pac-12. Nobody cares about the Pac-12 anyways. That's not real basketball on the West Coast. Baylor. should be at least the number 2 seed. I still think they're better than Gonzaga as well. I don't think Chet Holmgren, and obviously we're not talking about the West Coast Conference today for obvious reasons because it's not real.
We shouldn't even talk about it to begin with.
Yeah. Baylor, in my opinion, the reason I like Arkansas is because, in my opinion, the way that I watch basketball, these two teams play very similar, but Baylor just has better players. And I wouldn't say a better coach. I would say both teams have great coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor has the better players. Baylor won a national championship last year. They have everything it takes to go back-to-back. And Flo Thamba is the reason why. He's the guy, by the way, that I said they need someone to step up. Flo Thamba was the guy. He also has a great name, and that's what you need in college basketball.
I agree.
You need memories is what brings you runs. I don't know how it works in college basketball, but maybe it's rigged like Stav said. It's the guys that have the best runs and the best out of nowhere runs that you remember forever. You remember Kemba Walker, you remember Jimmer, you remember Dougie McBuckets. You're going to remember Flo Thamba after they win a national championship and he averages 15 and 9 a game.
I agree. One last thing before we move on about Baylor, like we've both been saying, they're really just trending in the right direction at the right time. You don't see this scenario at all anymore. It's very rare that you see a scenario like this where, like, wow, a rising team could really win a national championship. Like, it's usually like this team is dominant. They're just playing dominant basketball and they're just really, really good. We'll see them in the national championship game. Like, that's usually the situation going into the tournament, and we see it more than likely every year. But their style of basketball, with their experience just coming off of a national championship, it's not easy to win one, never mind going back to back. They're legitimate contenders again. And
they're a whole different team, in my opinion, than last year as well.
Like, they are. They're attacking
like an NBA team going back to back. These are new guys, like same coach, new guys.
Like, their attacking methods, the way they play offense, the way they just play very, very grindy defense. Like, they're just a gritty team. They're like, it's just what it is. Those teams are the teams that win.
Right. So that's going to wrap up our NCAA section. Those were, in my opinion, the 4 biggest conferences when it's going to come down to conference tournaments. Those are going to be the most exciting conference tournaments. That's why we included them. Once again, the West Coast Conference is not real. None of the schools in that conference are real. None of the people that play at those schools are real. Same with the Pac-12. Pac-12 a little bit more real because they play football, not basketball. Shout out to the Big East.
Go St. Mary's.
Go St. Mary's.
Yeah,
I'm more of a San Fran, but moving on. We have a little bit of NBA to cover. I'm just gonna get things started off here with, in my opinion, the guy that should be the most talked about in all of the NBA right now is Ja Morant. Stav giving me a weird look. I don't know if he agrees with me, but Ja Morant has been on an absolute tear. He dropped 52 on the Spurs on Tuesday night. He had so many highlights in that game: deep three, deep step back three, a posterizer, and we talked about it earlier in the week. The game that he dropped, 46? He had the 360 layup. He had another deep three. He's just, making a Balls Life mixtape on every single team right now. And I've seen a lot of rankings from ESPN and other sources because we know how crazy they are about him as well. I've seen him be the number 1 list, and we talked about the MVP on last episode with like DeMar DeRozan, with Joel Embiid. Could Ja's name be on that top 3? I've seen him on the 1, but from us 3, from our perspective, say if we were to release a power rankings for potential MVPs, is Ja top 3? Like, he's really getting it done in Memphis. Stav, what do you think?
I love Ja. I think Ja's probably my favorite player that's not a Celtic. I don't think he's top 3. I would definitely put him in my top 5. I just think, everyone knows my opinion on Joel Embiid. I don't think he deserves to be as hyped up as he is, but he's probably going to win MVP just because of that whole narrative of Philly and all that. Then you got Jokic, you got Giannis, you got DeMar DeRozan. I'd probably put Ja around 5, maybe 4. But I blame the NBA for this. Just because I wish they could have it in some sort of way where they don't announce which games are going to be nationally televised before the season, because the Lakers by far have the most nationally televised games, and they do not play a good brand of basketball. Like, it's just not fun to watch. And then you got teams like Memphis, Charlotte, like all these fun teams that everyone wants to watch. You can't watch them because the Lakers are on national TV, and no one wants to watch the Lakers who are 7 games under 500. It's just Jaws putting up, like you just said, Ball is Life mixtape every single game that he's playing. He dropped back-to-back career nights. Scored 46 the night before, and then he scores 52 against the Spurs. Had literally like 6 Sports Center top 10 plays. He had that poster. He had that buzzer beater that was 0.4 seconds. Great pass from Steven Adams. Threw it into the corner, and Ja like flicked it in from right before the 3-point line. It just does everything. It's just you think of that draft class. You think of like Zion and how his whole situation is, but Ja's probably Ja's gonna be the best player in that draft class.
Yes.
Like that might be the new Greg Oden KD debate. Like, oh, imagine if Portland took KD over Greg Oden, and now it's gonna be like, oh, imagine the Pelicans took Ja over Zion.
Yeah,
I mean, I agree.
I want to say I definitely consider him in the MVP race. I think, like, not to discredit anything that he's done because he's very, very talented, very, very good. But the whole hype, that's an NBA go-to for the MVP. It's hype.
Yeah,
Like,
Will once again loves the hype.
It's just that's what it is. That's just what it is. And I think if Joel Embiid wins the MVP, I think he has someone who wanted out of Brooklyn to thank him for it.
Right, and I think I said in the last episode, it's not the MVP, it's the most popular player. It's the MPP. So Ja, very popular in the eyes of a lower demographic, though, to the people that aren't voting. But the people that are voting for this prestigious award, you could say the old people, they're gonna like the way that Joel Embiid is playing, and they're gonna like where Joel Embiid is with Philadelphia, and they're gonna like the stats that he's putting up. Never mind the free throws; it helps him out a lot. And I think without the free throws, he wouldn't be as high on everybody's list as he is. But I mean, hey, he's getting to the line. Like no matter what we like, it's the stats that he's putting up. If he's putting up 20 free throws a game, 25 free throws a game, like we can be as mad as we want, but those are still points going into a stat column, and that means a lot. As for Ja being top 3 on my list, I think of names like, once again, Embiid, DeRozan. I think of Giannis is always going to be on that list. I think of potentially Luka, the way he's been playing. And I watched him against the Lakers. Well, I'll get into that in a little bit because I hate the Lakers and I hate the way they play. But I think of these names, and then I think of Ja. And I think a lot of the reason why I am trying to not have Ja up there is just how young he is. And then I think about like how great that is for the brand of basketball. Kind of like a D Rose-esque season that he's having. If he can bring them to a top 2 seed to finish off the regular season, which not highly likely, but it's possible. Who knows what John Morant can do? If he can finish top 2 seed, he's in my top 2, not my top 3. But I just don't see that. I see them finishing 4 or 5, maybe 6. They won't be in the play-in. I think John Morant's going to have a fantastic season. It's going to go underappreciated like it always does. And I think Joel Embiid will come home with the MVP, like Stav said.
So I agree with you on most of that. The thing is the whole the team like success factor in the MVP. I feel like that's like so taken out of the race for so many years, and I feel like that's something that should be more looked at. Because I feel like you take a look at some of these players who've won MVP recently, like obviously team success is very important, but like a lot of these teams, you see a lot of players on other teams that are like, wow, this team did really good this season, but this guy was just way better. And like obviously deserving for most of them, just a lot of it's just hard to like take in all at once, like knowing that. That's why I think Embiid will probably end up winning because he has harder to thank for team success. They're a completely different team. Like, I mean, like night and day. Like they're scary now. Like they're really scary. And then the same thing with like Ja on Memphis. Like if he could lead them, I feel like he's going to get discredited because team success will completely undermine what Joel Embiid and James Harden do in Philly. I feel like it would just be like, wow, well, Embiid's been playing great all year long, and they've been a top seed, and then they became more successful. And then, like, Ja Morant's been playing great all year long, but then they fell.
Right.
They're just they're going to be like, well, who? Then the whole valuable part of it. But I mean, it's just in those situations where team success isn't valued, that it randomly comes into play in situations like that.
Yeah, that's facts. And I think the fact that the market plays a big factor in it as well. Philadelphia, a lot bigger of a market than Memphis, Tennessee is. I'm not obviously putting any shade on Memphis. It's a great city. They have a pyramid in Memphis, the Bass Pro Shops pyramid. It's a great city. It goes underappreciated. Like I said, Ja Morant does. I think it's a perfect fit. Memphis is fun. They play a great brand of basketball. The basketball that I want to watch, and I agree with Stav, I think he might be my favorite player outside of the Celtics. I have a few other guys that I love to watch as well. He's just so exciting. Like, it's awesome. It reminds me a lot of a young D Rose. I don't know if I think I said that like 5 seconds ago, but it reminds me of like a D Rose, and it reminds me of a young John Wall too. And those are some of my favorite players of all time. John Wall. I don't know if you guys know this about me. John Wall is one of my favorite players, like, ever, like, to watch. I loved John Wall. Will, I don't know if you remember, I had that John Wall Wizards jersey, the teal one from like second grade. I wore it until it didn't fit me in like seventh. I got it in size bigger. Like, I love John Wall. I see a lot of John Wall in John Morant. It's kind of like when we were talking about Jamar Chase, when I was like, this guy is like a Larry Fitzgerald for me. Like, I'm on this guy. Like, I love this guy. Like, and I see that a lot in John Morant. He's so exciting. He's gonna run the league. He's gonna run the league in a couple of years, and this is gonna be the start of like, oh, could we have put him in the MVP talk? And in a couple of years, I think he's gonna be consistently in it.
I agree with you with the whole John Wall D Rose comparisons. I see it. I see like John Wall's slashing ability with Derrick Rose athleticism. Because like don't take it the wrong way. John Wall's a very athletic point guard. I just think he has that like mobility in the air like Derrick Rose did with like John Wall's like finesse in the air, if that makes sense. Like John Wall was just so smooth when he does his 360 layups, whenever he does his circus layups. He's like has that like built strong, like goes up strong, but also has that athletic movement that makes it so like smooth. Yeah, it's just so clean, and he's so explosive.
Yep, he can jump
he's
from anywhere.
Super explosive. He
really
can. He really can. And I agree with you guys. I think he's probably my favorite player, one of my favorite players outside of the Celtics. I mean, I like to watch a lot of guys in the NBA that are like that. I mean, like this year, I've always been like a huge DeRozan fan. I'm glad to see that he's finally playing good. And like finally somewhere where I can probably actually see a few more games and him actually playing. And I love watching him play because like as boring of a game that he can really play, because he's a big fundamental kind of guy. Like he does a lot of things, but he does a lot of like just like the way he plays is just it's not anything electric. He just does the right thing and makes the right play, and it's just so smooth. And he makes the game of basketball just very enjoyable to watch.
That's facts. DeMar, I'm a big DeMar guy as well. He's so smooth. Just the way that he can get to the bucket. He can get to any spot he wants. DeMar DeRozan, MVP caliber player this year, has the Bulls, I think, at the 2 seed as of right now, but they're flipping and flopping out of the 1. Moving on to our team, once again, the Celtics. Big win against the Hawks, but the first half, if you turn the TV off after the first half, you wouldn't be happy with the way we played. We let up 65 points in the first. We still held the Hawks to under 100. They scored 98. With the Hawks being the highest scoring team in the league, JB went out in this game. Jason Tatum got it done. Stav, what are your thoughts on the Celtics? Are we really legit? Because we're 12 for 14. It's been an awesome run. And, like, are we going to be able to make a run this year, or are we going to have to wait another year or two?
I think if they're going to make a run, it's got to be this year. I think the East is so open. I really am not buying the hype of the 76ers. I do not think they're deep enough to win definitely in a playoff series against a team that's as dominant in the half court defensively as the Celtics. I do think Brooklyn is probably going to be the favorite if they all remain healthy and everything kind of goes to plan. But Ben Simmons, new reports come out about him every single day. So I love the Celtics. I love how they played. I think last night was the biggest one of the year for them, the most impressive, being down 17 without Jaylen Brown, coming out in the second half, going on about like a 15-14-0 run right out the gates to tie the game. Tatum had 33, 8, and 7. And I mean, Smart made back-to-back plays in the fourth quarter that led to Grant Williams threes. Like, insane block on DeAndre Hunter. And then he saved the ball. Tatum kicks it to Grant Williams twice for 3, hits them both, puts kind of like the icing on the cake. It's a huge win last night. I think an unsung hero of the Celtics season is Aaron Nesmith. And I think if he can play as he's been doing, if he gets solid minutes and produces, him and Pritchard, I want to say, there's no stopping the Celtics. Like, if they're 10 guys deep and they all are playing nasty defense and they're all scoring, like, there's no stopping the Celtics, in my opinion.
I'd like agree and disagree at the same time. I agree that, like, obviously if like right now is the time to make the run because they have the pieces, they have the ability to, but I feel like we can't discredit what's going to happen in the coming years. Me and Griff like hashed this, I think on the last episode. We're hitting the prime of Jason Tatum and we're in there with Jaylen Brown. I know we just got hurt. We're entering. Like, we're there. We're going to see that.
I don't think we're in it, but I think we are beginning to enter it, and I think this is the year. Yeah. And I think we make a little run in the season because of it.
Yeah, we were talking about, like, we're going to see this in the playoffs. We're going to see.
That's basically what I said.
We're going to see, like, the highlights of what a prime is going to look like for Jason Tatum, and it's going to be great. Yeah, exactly. We're going to get bits and pieces. He's going to play very good basketball, and we're going to see moments of, like, wow, this guy is just completely dominant on the basketball court. But I feel like we can't leave out the coming years. But I feel like if this is a year, it looks good for us, but it could be a very grindy kind of playoffs in the Eastern Conference. They're a strong conference this year.
Yeah, so my thoughts for all of this. I think the Celtics have the capabilities to make a run. I don't think this is the year. I think this is a year of multiple years. Like you said, the Eastern Conference is open. I don't think it's going to close up anytime soon. We saw the Bucks play very good last year, and they're playing good again once again this year. But this isn't LeBron and the Cavs or LeBron and the Heat anymore. This NBA is more spaced out. We have teams, so many different teams that can make runs. I think the Celtics are in a perfect scenario where they can make, at some point, I'm not saying like the next 5 years, maybe like the next 10 years, they can make 3, 4, maybe 5 finals just because of how open the Eastern Conference is. Now, that's best case scenario, obviously. I don't want to sound like a delusional Celtics fan, but we really have the capabilities. And to Stav's point on the second-year guys, Pritchard and Nesmith, Nesmith's been doing it all season because of the brand that Ime Udoka likes to play. That defense, he's a long shooting guard that can move. He's a 3-and-D type of guy. Nesmith, awesome. He's everything that I thought he was going to be when we drafted him, and I think he's going to continue to improve. For Pritchard, I like him a lot, obviously. I have a Peyton Pritchard jersey. But once we started going on this run, I was a little bit scared for Pritchard, and here's why. Our brand of basketball right now is the best defense in the league, which is what we are since we started this run, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think we're going to end the season as the number one defense in the league. Peyton Pritchard, a small point guard known for his offense. How is he going to fit into that, right? That's not really the brand of basketball he plays. But one thing that we forget about Peyton Pritchard is even if he's not that great on defense, he is gritty. He is probably one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker on the Celtics. We've heard the stories about him dribbling like 10 hours a day, things of that nature. If Peyton Pritchard needs to add defense, he's going to add defense. He's just going to work as hard as he can for it. And I think that's the exact case of what happened. I think he just grinded it out. He got better with his lateral quickness. He got better with taking hits to the chest to keep someone in front of him. And I've noticed it over the last few games that he's been getting in, and he's been getting a lot more minutes because of it. He's been playing great defense at the one. And another thing that he's added to his game, which is awesome, is his ability to shoot threes off the catch. Before, primary ball handler in college, most likely in high school, obviously, as well. But last year, I didn't really see a lot of opportunities for Peyton Pritchard to catch and shoot threes. He was handling the ball. Now, the way that we play, everybody can handle the ball. I've seen Robert Williams making plays in the post passing. Peyton Pritchard is going to be open on the wing a lot during this run, during the playoffs even. And if he can hit those threes, which he can, he's going to be getting 15 minutes a game, and he's going to be averaging like 9, 10, 11 points a game. So is Neesmith. They're going to be playing. They're going to be playing off the bench. They're going to be young. They're going to be energetic. They're going to play great defense. We're going to shut down the best teams' backcourts in the league. I don't think James Harden will be able to do much against us when it comes to that time, because I think we'll be able to tire him out. We have Smart, we have White, we have Neesmith even. I would put him on him like in the third quarter when he's tired. We have the people to stop a backcourt, and we have people to stop the front court as well. We have Rob Will, we have Al Horford. Jason Tatum can get it done against your best wing, your best power forward even. We really have the pieces on defense, and that's why I'm so happy, because our offense is clicking now too. It's just I think this is really a year. I'm not going to say the year. A year where we can make a run, but I don't think we're the best team in the East, but I think we can sneak through, make it to the finals, and maybe even win.
Yeah, I think the Celtics are the most deep team.
Yes.
I'm just like thinking about it. I mean,
I'm getting
Brooklyn,
red. I'm Irish skin, but I'm getting red talking about them. I'm excited.
The Nets, we've seen what happens when Kyrie or KD isn't on the floor. Like, they're awful. They are terrible without those guys. Like, the worst team in the league.
Honestly, I feel like that team is just so self-run.
Yeah,
I don't think Steve Nash does a great job. He's a very intellectual guy coming from the point guard position. He's a very smart NBA player. I just don't think as a coach it translates.
He'd be a great coach of a young team.
Exactly. He'd be good like player coach, like helping out young guards and stuff like that. He'd be fantastic, creating like an absolute beast of a guard. But that team is just too self-run to like really do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and I mean, Milwaukee, I think, is good. They're seasoned vets. They're obviously a really good team, but I just don't think I don't think that they're as deep as the Celtics. Philly, they're literally I think in my opinion, only have 4 good players. Like, you got Embiid, you got Harden, Tobias Harris.
At all.
You got Maxey. I mean, I would consider Thibault, but Thibault cannot score on his own.
He plays great.
Yeah, he plays awesome defense. But like, the rest of that team just isn't good. And then, I mean, the Heat are good. The Heat and the Bulls, I think, are pretty good. They're pretty deep too, but I just think the Celtics are better than them if you match them up in a playoff series. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
The Heat, for me, it's like they're good, and they have so many guys that are stepping up. And but the Heat, like, it's just weird. The guys that are stepping up, I don't think are going to step up in the playoffs. Like, they have 2 undrafted guys. I don't remember their names, but I know they're those 2 are putting a show on in Miami, which is crazy. I don't think undrafted free agent rookies are gonna be enough for the Heat in the playoffs. I think Jimmy Butler can do everything that he can. I don't think Jimmy Butler's gonna have the same run that he had in the bubble. I think the bubble is a whole different beast. I really just don't think the Heat have what it takes to do it, and it's weird because they do. Like, on paper, they do. They have the piece in Jimmy Butler. They have Bam. They have Lowry now, who's leading them to a great defense as well. But I just really don't like coming off their bench. Like, Tyler Hero, I think he'll get it done again. I think Tyler Hero is here to stay. Next year, he's coming off the bench a good amount. I think he earned a starting role recently. I think he's going to be a starting shooting guard, maybe sometimes rotate to the 3. It's just really their bench for me. It's like they have depth, but I don't think that depth is going to play the same way in the postseason as they are in the regular season. And the Bulls dealing with a lot of injuries at all times. So I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, I don't even think Alex Caruso can even pass anymore because of his injury, which stinks. Like, he has
stupid
no
injury too. Yeah. Who did that again? I was so mad.
Grayson Allen.
It was Grayson. Oh yeah,
of course it was.
And he's stealing minutes from Pack. Don't even get me started. Moving on. The last thing I wanted to cover in the NBA, because I'm very upset about it. On Tuesday night, I was watching TNT basketball because the Hawks were playing the Seas. We already covered that game, obviously. The game after it, I just kept TNT on. As always, was Lakers Mavs. I feel like I watch it twice a week. And every single time it just makes me mad. Luka, he had a good game. He had 25, 8, 5 assists. He did have 6 turnovers. But I enjoyed watching Luka. LeBron, he had 26, 12, and 5 with 4 turnovers. The only thing I took out of the game for LeBron was his stupid post conference quote. He said about their record. Obviously, they're 9 games behind the 6th seed, which is obviously to be in playoffs, not in the play-in. They're 7 games under 500. He said, ready, and I quote, "Until you stomp me out, cut my head off, bury me 12 feet under," which is 2 times what you usually bury a dead body in, "I've got a chance." So that's my confidence. And I even cited it in our notes in APA format for you guys, so I don't get any plagiarism things, because this is a quote, except for the body thing. That was the dumbest quote. I hate when he does this. It's like I'm LeBron James. That's literally what he said. Why didn't he just say I'm LeBron James? Like, we know you're LeBron James, and you know what? I know exactly what kind of player you are, and I watched it once again last night. I literally hate watching him play. I think he's great. He had 26, 12, and 5. I threw in 4 turnovers just because it was a good amount, but honestly, I don't even care about the turnovers. I hate the way he plays. He had a logo 3 all over Instagram, right? All of his
About
other
8 times. About 4, like I saw that post about 45 times.
Yes.
Like,
No,
God damn.
like
Continue.
it's literally like he gets his. He says chasing Kareem. Obviously, like that's over now. And then like the whole team drops like a combined like 50 points together, and he has like the rest. It's just a joke. And like this is fun. This quote is funny to me because you can't, like, as much as I don't like saying it, you obviously can't count LeBron out.
Yeah, like
You just can't. It's
I
an
know. I'm
obvious
saying,
thing.
like,
It's an obvious thing. No, I
it's
agree with you
obvious, but
100%.
just say I'm
It's
LeBron James. It's
no,
literally the same thing
exactly.
to say.
The other
Like,
part
we
of this
know.
quote is that's his confidence. I get that you need to have that much confidence in yourself to be like successful at a lot of things in life. But like, I'm sorry, when you take a look at the rest of that roster and you say that to them, like they're gonna laugh. Like, it's funny. Like, you really think
In
you're
the
gonna say
rest of
that
the
to Russell
roster,
Westbrook and he's gonna be like, yeah, cool. Let me turn it back to the Thunder days. Good luck.
in the rest of that roster, if I'm looking at this quote, I'm pissed because it's not like he's saying we have a chance. He's saying I have a chance.
Yeah. At what? The
Like,
next team?
he's like, these guys are around
Like
him.
getting
This is his team,
traded?
which obviously it is. But like I don't understand how he gets away with some of these things. And like, people, like, this quote was on literally the head page on ESPN when I opened it up, and there was so much going on in the NCAA and so much going on in the MLB. In the MLB, I and that quote from LeBron James was the first thing I saw when I went on ESPN's website. That's astonishing to me. My least favorite sentence, other than the 12 feet, because that was just stupid, was he just says, "I've got a chance." Like, what do you mean? I just really, when you're down in the season and you're the seed that you are right now, I think they're the 9 seed. You got to be a team, and it's obvious that they're not a team because of what he just said. I've got a chance. I'm going to continue to repeat it because it's just such a stupid thing to say.
What does he have a chance at? That's the
it's a team.
question. It's
You're
not
on a
like he's even
team.
chasing Kareem anymore. Like,
He's
it's
chasing
already
rings,
over.
and it's like that's what he's supposed to be doing, but he's supposed to be doing it with his team. And I think this is another hint. He's continuously dishing things out. He wants out. He doesn't want to be in LA
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
It's
I
simple.
mean, the Lakers, they're screwed in their future, to be honest, if they don't trade LeBron, AD, and Westbrook. I mean, I think I've seen reports about Russell Westbrook and the Lakers being mutual about finding him a new home, which it sucks to see Russell
That's going to
Westbrook
be a hard
yeah,
thing to
it
do.
sucks to see him not dominate like he was 3 years ago. I mean, he in the
Mm-hmm.
month of February, he had a minus 49. Like, that's awful. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. I feel bad.
I mean, I
just
feel
Hope you
bad
don't
for
like that.
laughing. It's just like, just like minus 49.
So it's just like
Yeah.
the Lakers are the retirement home. That was kind of the meme going into the season, and it proves to be true. They're too old to compete with some of these teams. I mean, Luka Doncic, I don't know how true this quote is. I should have screenshotted where I saw the tweet. I think it was from a verified account. But Luka went 4 times in a row ISO on LeBron and scored every single time, and then said like, "This is the new era, bitch," or something like that. Like I'm quoting Luka, but like,
No, like actually, it's like getting back to like the plus minus. Like they scored 104 points last night, minus 49. Like that's awful. Like if you were to consider it as minus 49, and let's say on average they score like a little over 100 points, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's bad.
So,
like I don't understand with Russ. I don't think it's because of the situation he's in with LeBron, because in my opinion, he gets his touches. I just think he's lost it. I think after that injury, he's just never going to be the same again. And I think a lot of people were buying into the hype going into the season that Russell Westbrook's a superstar. And I've been saying this since last year, when, in my opinion, he underperformed as well a lot. Russell Westbrook's never going to be the same. He's not a superstar anymore. He's a once he was this, and he'll never be that again. And I loved Russell Westbrook. On the Thunder, I didn't like him at all after that point. Once he got into everything, I don't know why. I just kind of like lost it for him. He's just not the same, man. I wish he was, because he's so exciting. And I wanted to bring his name up with when I was talking about Ja, but in my opinion, he's more like powerful than Ja is. Even though Ja's powerful, he has the finesse that Russ doesn't seem to have at all. Can't make a shot either. He's lost it, and it was a bad pickup for the Lakers, and we all said it, and we were all right. So congratulations to every single person on Twitter, because every single person on Twitter was right about Russell Westbrook. It wasn't that hard to figure out that he wasn't going to fit well with the Lakers, guys. So stop thinking you're NBA analysts. But the Lakers, I love Anthony Davis. That's about it. Frank Vogel, awful coach, should have been fired a long time ago. They should have pulled the Bill Russell operation. If they were going to just do this, LeBron should be the head coach right now. I'm not even kidding, because LeBron would just be like, "All right, guys, shut the fuck up. Let me get a ring." That's literally what he'd say, and it would work, because who doesn't want to get LeBron a ring? He'd be like, "Yeah, I want a ring with LeBron James." That's pretty cool. So I'd literally listen to anything he said. The brand of basketball at the Lakers play is the opposite of what every single person on planet Earth wants to see. It's disgusting. It's not basketball. They should be in the West Coast Conference, and I think St. Mary's would be better than them.
It's expired and stale.
It's awful.
Yeah, they're
disrespectful
done for,
to the sport.
Like
my man, James Naismith would not enjoy this.
Like, great. Like, I love, like, okay, one thing about the game last night, I did not watch this game last night, nor do I even plan on watching Lakers games, because I just can't, I'm so sick of it. Like,
maybe they'll change.
I don't even like talking about the Lakers right now. I just, like, I didn't even, like, I know it's here. We got to cover some of it. It makes me sick to my stomach. But, like, I hop on Instagram. First thing I see, LeBron James comes out and hits a half quarter. Like, congrats, you lost the game. Like, logo LeBron. Cool, man.
Luka dunked on Dwight Howard. I actually didn't even see it on Instagram.
I couldn't tell you what Luka did. But I'm done talking about the Lakers. It makes me sick. Let's get on to the NFL, because honestly, I'm more excited about that than I am about the Lakers.
Yeah. So, a major headline that everyone was seeing was talking kind of about like Bruce Arians. I don't know if you guys saw that quote, but I kind of wanted to speak about it a little bit. But he was asked about, what if Tom Brady came back and he didn't want to play for the Bucs? Would you trade him? And he said no. Like, I just feel like Bruce Arians has this stigma around him of him being a dick. Like, there's reports about him just like scratching everything that Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich would work on in practice. He would scratch it and then put what he wanted. He has a whole situation with Antonio Brown. I don't know. I think he's definitely on his way out. I think he should just retire, in my opinion. And like, hypothetically, if Tom Brady came back and wanted to play for like the 49ers, for example, and Bruce Arians was like, "No, I'm not trading you." Like, imagine Bill Belichick did that to Gronk, like how he would be labeled. So I want to see Bruce Arians get all the slander if that were to actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's fact. And yeah, just to touch up on Bruce Arians, I don't have much to say about him. But it's just like AB has gone through a lot of different situations. where he portrays himself as the victim. I think in this situation is probably his best. This is his best case to play the victim, because I think he truly was, and I think Antonio Brown did take it a step or maybe a couple steps too far. But I mean, Bruce Arians, for years, not even only on this team but on the Cardinals as well, who played very well like throughout their run with him. Like, he's a good coach, but at the same time, he's not the coach you'd actually want to play for. He's kind of like he's a Bill Belichick, a lot dumber, and in my opinion, like, he's just rude. He's just straight up not nice. Like Bill Belichick, like the way that people portray Bill Belichick is that he's super serious, which I think Bruce Arians has that aspect of him as well. That's why I put that name in there. But Bruce Arians is like a wannabe Belichick, where it's like it's his way or no way, except he's an idiot. And then he's a lot more vocal about the things with his ball club, which is like respect. At the end of the day, it is your team and all of that. But he just needs to kind of settle it down, because he's not coaching college ball either, which is a whole different thing, where those are your kids and amateurs. Like, these are adults, and you're just toying around with them and like just being super disrespectful to a lot of different owners, coaches, players. Like, Bruce Arians, in my opinion, the first thing I think of when I think of him is he's just disrespectful. Like, I've never seen someone come out and be like, yeah, Bruce Arians is a guy you want to play for. And it, like, as much as he wins, he's not the greatest coach. So that's all I really have to say about it. But we can move on.
I was gonna say I had just one thing to say, just to hash on that. Like, honestly, like, not a huge Bruce Arians guy myself. I mean, I've already talked about the whole situation with him and AB. Like, I agree with you on that. Another thing is, look at his ego after he won. He thought he was the best ever after he won. He thought he did that. No chance.
He didn't do it at all. That was Brady.
Didn't
That
do
was
anything.
the defense. That was everything that was left with.
That's like all I'm just saying. Like, he just didn't. He thought he contributed the most just because his title is the head coach.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Bruce Arians, who knows what his case will be, but that's going to wrap up the episode. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll get more into the NFL. We have a couple more things to break down in on the next episode, including the combine, different things with the Patriots, maybe the Seahawks by then too, but they probably won't make any moves. We hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you guys on Wednesday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday. That's why I said it didn't sound right. We will see you guys on Tuesday, and peace.
Peace.
Peace.